Okay, Chairman, we are live and ready to go.
Thank you, Dr. Townsend Smith. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this March 25th, 2021 called meeting of the North Carolina State Board of Education. I'm Eric Davis, Chair of the Board, and I call this meeting to order. Prior to the start of the meeting, a quorum of at least 7 members was confirmed for this called meeting. Board members are reminded that it's our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of this board. Does any member of the board know of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us at this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter. I now ask for a motion to approve the March 25th, 2021 agenda.
So moved.
Olivia Oxendine.
Motion by Dr.
Second.
Oxendine, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Keenan. Dr. Townsend Smith, we call the roll.
Yes, sir. Dr. Oxendine,
Yes.
Ms. Kamnitz,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan, Mr. Keenan, Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan,
Yes.
thank you. Ms. White,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor,
Yes.
Vice Chair
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I note for the record that the board will take a roll call vote on all items requiring action on this agenda. As we begin today's meeting, we look forward to our students and educators returning to in-person instruction in schools across our state. And as we celebrate that achievement, we remain vigilant and committed to our guiding principles of equity and whole child. Moreover, we're mindful that the acts of violence across our nation over the past year, including those last week in Atlanta against our fellow citizens of Asian descent, affect us all, particularly our students who have endured relentless stress, anxiety, and depression. And these events add to their burden. And so it's essential that we first commit ourselves to providing the social, emotional, and mental health supports to our students as we provide them a physically safe environment to enable our students to learn and our teachers to teach. These basic steps are critical to recover from the pandemic in body, mind, and spirit, as well as to create a better tomorrow for each student in every school. So we'll now proceed to our committee work, and I recognize Vice Chair Duncan, who is Chair of the Business Operations Committee. Vice Chair Duncan.
Thank you, Chair Davis. Along with Todd Chastain, we represent the Biz Op Committee, and we have one item. It's an action on first read item today, which is approval of a contract over $500,000. This particular contract amount is $500,000. The purpose of the contract is for the ABC Science Collaboration of the Duke School of Medicine to provide data collection, analysis, and interpretation of COVID-19 related metrics of student, teacher, and staff safety for the local school administrative units, providing in-person instruction under Plan A for middle and high school students. I think all of us are aware of the work of the ABC Science Collaborative from the Duke School of Medicine during the course of this pandemic timeframe. And it's the intent pursuant to Session Law 2021-4 to enter into a contract using federal funds that must occur before tomorrow. The entry of this contract must occur before tomorrow and will end no later than September 15th in terms of time frame. With that background, I know we have staff members, and Tim Hogenmeyer has looked at this on behalf of the board from any legal standpoint. So I want to open the floor for any questions we may have about this particular item. All right, not hearing any. And I do want to thank staff for working on this. It's a lot of work been done in a short period of time, and we should all be appreciative of that. But with that, thanks. I'll then turn it back to you, Chair Davis.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Duncan. Would you mind, before we complete this item, reading into the record the specific motion that we'll be approving, since this one has some technical issues? Do you have that handy? And if not, I can read it.
Bear with me for a moment. I think I'll let you read it.
Okay, sure. The motion concerning this item is for the board to approve the contract with Duke University in the amount of $500,000 to be used to fund the public school COVID-19 safety study of ABS Science Collaborative of the School of Medicine at Duke University, as mandated by Session Law 2021-4, with the understanding that the State Board of Education and DPI legal staff will continue to negotiate certain terms that are not material to the scope, timing, or cost of the contract. Any questions on that motion?
Chair Davis, this is Tim Hogemeyer. May I interject a moment?
Mr. Hogemeyer.
I apologize for stepping out here, but I noticed that the motion which I typed up has a typo, that it should not be ABS Science Collaborative, but ABC Science Collaborative. So just make sure to make that correction, please.
Yeah, if that correction will be reflected in the record. Appreciate that. Thanks for catching that, Mr. Hogemeyer, and for your good work on this contract in short order.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this item?
Chair Davis, I have just a quick question.
Dr. Oxendine.
In the contract. So this contract it appears to be, based on the wording, it's a short contract, isn't it? Or am I reading it incorrectly? It begins no later than the 26th. Okay, so it cannot begin any later than September 15th. Is that correct?
So I'll turn to Mr. Hogemeyer, but what I understand is it must begin no later than March 26th of 2021 and must end no later than September 15th of 2021.
Okay, so it's a fairly short window of time then.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And
yes, this is
Mr. Hogemeyer.
Sorry, ma'am. I was going to just say that you articulated correctly the length of the contract.
Well, just a quick follow-up. Will there be a report of findings back to the state board at some point?
The intention, I believe, of the contract is for there to be a report of findings back to the legislature, and as part of that process, I believe it would come to the state board as well.
Okay, very good. It should be very, very interesting findings, considering the purpose of the contract. So those are my questions, Chair Davis. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Oxendine. Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you, Vice Chair Duncan and team, for the quick work on that item. Board members, we have one item of new business, and that touches on last week our approval of the revisions to the Lighting Our Way guidance, which operationalizes the Strong Schools Toolkit in response to Senate Bill 220, the Reopen Our School Act 2021. Since our action last week, additional legislation, since that time last week, the CDC guidance, now allowing 3 feet of social distancing for all K-12 schools, was enacted, and we have an opportunity to update that guidance so that students can experience daily in-person instruction. The Strong Schools Toolkit has also been modified to reflect that. I'll call on Ms. Schaefer to explain the item before us for the board's consideration. Ms. Schaefer.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. This reopening plans have been a moving target with changing science and additional changes, as the chair said, to the CDC guidance and subsequent changes, therefore, to the state DHHS toolkit. And there has been some legislation considered, which was determined not to be necessary in light of the toolkit changes that DHHS implemented yesterday. So what you have here is an attempt to put into practice, or put into words for our guidance of our schools what the general law is. And again, most of this is reflected either in the toolkit or in Senate Bill 220, which is also Session Law 2021-4. And it basically changes it. Plan A is now minimal physical distancing. The suggestion, the CDC guidelines are implemented in Plan A, and that they are recommended 3 feet of distancing, but not required. So Plan A has that proviso, but again, it's a recommendation of the Strong Schools Toolkit. Plan B remains 6 feet required distancing. So generally, we have the same requirements that were in place the last time. We have also put in here that all local school boards that were covered by the by Senate Bill 220 have to participate in the ABC collaborative and notify the local health department, notify the Department of Health and Human Resources that they are going into Plan A. Again, the idea is to study through the Duke study, to study what happens in Plan A and see if it's going to impact what we do for next year. I think that's basically the idea. So the other things here define, as I said, minimal physical distancing is Plan A, moderate physical distancing is Plan B, and then what we have on the second page is the full remote instruction is no longer an option for daily instructions. However, there are different rules for local school boards and charter schools to if they wish to go back to, or if they need to go back to remote C for the reasons that are permitted to them under the statute. Senate Bill 220 only was dealt with local school boards and their authority, so there's a very specific process. You will see there for local school boards, they have to report to DPI within 72 hours of shifting a class or a school to remote instruction, and it has to be only for COVID-19 exposures that result in insufficient school personnel or required student quarantines. That information is supposed to be shared with DPI within 72 hours. The charter schools are still subject to the session law that permits remote instruction under Session Law 2020-49 from last summer, because nothing has been changed about that. And if the governing board, and that provides that if a governing board of a charter school determines that additional remote instruction is needed to ensure the health and safety of students, it may provide for additional remote learning days. That's the exact language out of that statute. And so we wanted to make this as clear and as close to the legislation and the toolkit as possible, so that folks, as they reopen schools, know what they have to do in the circumstances they may confront. I think that concludes my remarks.
Schaefer, any questions from my colleagues on this item? Hearing none, the action before us today will be to approve these revisions. Colleagues, that concludes our items on our agenda today. We'll now move to taking action on these. Is there any request to remove either one of the 2 items on our action on first reading agenda? Hearing none, I request a motion to approve the following BizOp 1 as presented today, and the amendments to the Lighting Our Way Forward document for reopening K-12 public schools as presented in this meeting. Is there a motion to that effect?
Mrs. White, so moved.
Motion by Ms. White. Is there a second?
Wendell Hall.
Second by Mr. Hall. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, Dr. Townsend Smith, we call the roll to capture the vote.
Yes, sir. Dr. Oxendine,
Yes.
Ms. Chemnitz,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan,
Yeah.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Dr. Tipton Rogers, Ms. White,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan,
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Motion carries. Colleagues, thank you for having this called meeting today. That concludes our business. I'll now ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Wendell Hall.
Motion by Mr. Hall. Is there a second?
Second, Olivia Oxendine.
Second by Dr. Oxendine. Dr. Townsend Smith.
Yes, sir. Dr. Oxendine,
Yes.
Ms. Chemnitz,
Yes.
Mr. Keenan,
Yes.
Mr. Hall,
Yes.
Dr. Tipton Rogers, Ms. White,
Yes.
Lieutenant Governor,
Yes.
Vice Chair Duncan,
Yes.
Chair Davis.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned. Have a good evening.
Be safe.